Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Grinding Iron and Flour. Today, we're working on the F-150. Now, I apologize, we haven't posted any videos for a while. Shelby and I have been really busy spending time with friends, family. We went to Washington to see my grandma, and we went to Troy, spent the time with Shelby's family over the holidays. But we're back now. We had a big storm roll through Bozeman, so I was out working, plowing snow, but it's cleared. So we're ready to get some work done on the F-150 now. So while we've been gone, I have been driving the F-150 around a lot, and we reached our 500-mile break-in period goal, so that is all good to go. So we're going to change diff fluid on it, and while we're doing that, Shelby got me some Christmas presents. So Shelby got me a heavy-duty front diff cover for the front Dana 44 and a pinion guard for the 9-inch. These are from Great Lake Off-Road, so huge shout out to them for getting these welded up and having them in time for Christmas. So we're gonna get those painted, and then when we change fluid, we'll go ahead and throw these on. For the initial break-in, I used just some garbage Fram gear oil. I picked up some Valvoline 80/90 gear oil. It's a little nicer. I like to use Lucas, but they didn't have any Lucas in the big bottles, so that'll do just fine. Shelby also picked up a set of beadlock rings that we're going to be welding on some Vision steel 17x8 wheels. So these are the wheels that I bought. Like I said, they're just 5 on 5.5 steel Vision wheels. If you want to know what they are, they're just a Vision Soft 8. I got these ones from Summit. They were a little over $400 for the whole set, so they're $80-something a piece. I got 5 of them. I bought a set of BF Goodrich KM3s in 37 by 12.5 by 17s. So we're going to be throwing these all together. My spare tire is not going to be a beadlock. Just my 4 main tires are going to be beadlocks, and the spare is just going to be mounted like normal. So I actually already got the spare mounted up at my neighbor's house. He has a tire machine, so we went ahead and did that already. So now I'm going to get the beadlocks set up. So if you're not familiar with beadlocks, I'll give you a quick explanation. Normally when you mount your tire, the bead of your tire rests on these inner lips. But when you run low tire pressure and you hit your sidewall on rocks, or you're turning or going high speeds, that bead can fall off. It can burp air out. The whole bead can fall off. It's called de-beading your tire, and that's not fun. So what you do is you do beadlocks instead. So to weld yourself beadlock kit comes with 2 rings, an inner and an outer. So what you're gonna do is take your inner ring, and it's gonna lay right in there like that. And then what you're gonna wanna do is grind your weld surface. So all around your rim where there's paint, you're gonna wanna grind that off just with a wire wheel. Don't take any metal off, just the paint. And then you're gonna center this ring in here as best as you can and weld the bead around that. That way, when you mount your tire, the bead of your tire is gonna sit on this ring right here, and then you can clamp it with this ring on top, so your bead will sit between the two. You'll put bolts in all these holes to squeeze the bead together, and then your bead can't go anywhere when you're running low tire pressure. So this is really good for off-roading, especially when you're snow wheeling, because you go down to single digit. Some people even run 0 PSI in their tires when they're snow wheeling. So it's really important to have beadlocks, or you're gonna have a really long day with de-beading tires. So in the name of multitasking, I'm gonna go ahead and throw primer on these. While that's drying, I'm gonna get my wheels prepped for welding. Here I am on the first wheel. So you can see I got the top of that lip grinded, and then on the inside, the very top as well. Because the way this ring sits, the only thing that matters is the very top and then the top of the inside. So you don't need to grind all this down here and whatnot, because you're not going to be welding that. So, and make sure when you're doing it, you get through to the metal. They have a primer underneath the paint, and it can look like metal, but it's not. So make sure you actually grind it all the way through the paint through the primer to bare metal. And then I also got my valve stem hole grinded out on both sides, so I can weld that over, and then we're gonna move it to the inside. As you can see there, I got it welded, and then I went ahead and hit it on the inside as well. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a grinder and try to shave that down as much as I can, just to help with balancing in the future. That's kind of a big glob of metal, and it's going to really offset these wheels. Now, these wheels aren't going to be perfectly balanced. I am going to take them to the shop and have a shop balance them, but these weld-it-yourself beadlocks are really hard to get balanced, especially with a big tire. When you get above a 35, it just gets harder to balance tires. So I'm not expecting perfection on these by any means, but I am going to grind that down just to help remove as much weight as possible that's going to offset it. Okay, so I went ahead and I re-drilled the hole on the opposite side of where I welded it on this face here. So the valve stem will be facing up. The reason why I did that is because when you lay your rock ring in there, the valve stem would be facing towards the rock ring. This way, the valve stem is facing out, and you can actually get a chuck on there, and you're actually able to fill up your tires. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get this ring centered on my wheel, as centered as possible, and then I'm gonna go ahead and tack it into place. Okay, so I got some tack welds on there. I just did them in 4 corners basically, evenly spaced. I'm gonna put some more tacks in between each one and basically keep breaking it down until there's small weldable sections, maybe a couple inches long, just to keep my heat down so I don't warp the ring or the wheel. So let's go ahead and do that. There it is. So I got all my tack welds on. Now I can just go ahead, weld that seam, flip to the other side, weld a seam, and keep going around. I might weld a couple, like 4 of them, and then move to another wheel to get the next one started in order just to keep the heat down, let this one have time to cool down. And that's what the wheel looks like when it's all done and welded. I went ahead and I took the wire wheel to the surface of this just to get rid of all the welding BBs and stuff that get stuck to it. That's the easiest trick I've found, is use this. Sometimes if you have them, you got to hit them with a chisel or get a flap disc even sometimes. But they're not a huge deal if you have a couple here and there. But I'm just really picky about this kind of stuff, so I like to have all my parts nice and clean. So now I don't have a lathe, and I know a lot of guys will take the time to lathe the wheel down and make it as round as possible and balance better, but I don't have a lathe. So what I'm going to try to do is take a tire off my truck, mount this on my truck, and then put it in drive and let it spin on the axle, and I'm going to take a grinder with a flap disc to it and try to grind this down as evenly as possible. So I got all my wheels welded, I got the outer rings primed. Now I'm getting the diff cover swapped over. So there's the old diff cover, pretty gray, which is typical from my understanding because you're meshing your gears, so you're gonna have some silver in there. But we got the diff draining, which looks pretty good. I might spin it over and make sure we don't have any chipped teeth, but I doubt we do. I didn't romp on it. I was a good boy. I followed the instructions. So once that's drained, I'm going to clean up the face and then slap the new heavy duty diff cover on. So here's what we have going on. Put the tractor in front of the truck in case it falls and decides to run away. Have the wheels on the back axle, jack stands on both sides. I'm going to start it in 2-wheel drive, put it in gear, let it go, and then I should be able to hit this with my grinder and get a nice smooth even grind. So let's see what happens. Okay, so I just finished up. It worked pretty good. I didn't take it all the way down to flat, because it doesn't really matter that much, but I just got a nice flat, even surface on there, on all of them. Now I'm painting them, just hitting them with a coat of gloss black, all of them, and then the rings as well. Before you paint, make sure you take your hardware and put it in all the holes on both the inner and outer rings to make sure the holes are big enough. Otherwise, you're going to have to drill them out, and then it's going to be paint, so you're going to repaint. So we got all the wheels painted. Now I'm starting to get them put inside of the tires. And then I have the outer rings over here drying. So once those are done, I can go ahead and bolt everything together. Alright, so I threw my tire up on a 5-gallon bucket, and then I threw the locking ring in there. So now I'm going to turn it until my holes are lined up. I'm going to get a couple bolts started, not tight, just in there loosely so my rings are lined up, and then I can move the tire around to get it centered. So here's what we're looking like. This is the part that takes the longest because I got to put my bolt, washer, and on the back side a nut and a washer on every single one. There's 35, so a set of 4 is 140. And then you have to tighten them all down. So be doing this for a little bit. So there it is. They are done. They're on the truck and they look great. We've used them a few times, aired them down to about 5 psi on all 4, and they work awesome. If you were wondering, this front bumper is one that I'm building and designing, so leave a comment if you're interested in getting one ordered. I'm going to have a couple different designs coming out with side wings and what have you. And then I got the Great Lake Off-Road front diff cover put on, and in the rear end I got their pinion guard put on. So she's coming along pretty nice. We picked up a weather guard toolbox to throw all of our recovery gear in. And all I have left is to do a new rear bumper and we're good to go. So thank you guys very much for watching, and stay tuned for some snow wheeling videos.